Hello, welcome to Math Made Public. Today we're going to talk about dividing by a whole number versus a fraction. Okay, so let's look at our first example. So here we have 4 divided by 2. So what this is saying is how many groups of 2 are in 4? So let's think about that as a picture, okay? So let's say I have 4 objects, whatever they are. In this case, I've just created some rectangles, okay? 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to divide these 4 rectangles into 2 equal groups of 2. Okay, and then I want to write down, well, how many groups do I have? So I have here one group of 2, and here's my second group of 2. So 4 divided by 2 equals 2 because there are 2 groups of 2 here. Okay, now let's look at this example. 4 divided by a half. Okay, so that's a completely different problem than this one. Okay, this is how many groups of 1/2 are in 4. Okay, so let's look at this, which can be really confusing for some students. Okay, so here's 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what this is asking is how many groups of a half are in 4? So what I'm doing is I'm taking those whole pieces and I'm dividing each of them into a half. So this is what I end up with. So this whole piece is going to equal 2 halves, right? Because 2 halves make a whole. Okay, and I'm going to do that with each of those. So here's my second whole that I've divided into 2 halves, and my third whole piece that I divided into 2 halves, and my fourth whole piece that I divided into 2 halves. Okay. Now I'm answering the question, 4 divided by a half. If I take 4 items and I divide each of them into a half, how many halves do I have? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 4 divided by a half equals 8. Okay. And this is where the idea of when we divide by a fraction, we're actually multiplying that number by its reciprocal or multiplicative inverse comes from, because 4 divided by a half is the same thing as 4 times the reciprocal of a half or the multiplicative inverse of a half, which is 2 over 1. Okay, so that's going to give me 8 over 1, which equals 8. Okay, 4 divided by 2 is a different problem than 4 divided by a half, and it can be really confusing for students, okay? So always kind of talk it through, ask the question in your brain, what's it asking, and then draw a picture. Okay, learn it, teach it, pass it on.